Let's get started demo first. So this is one of the series where actually we implement .NET Core Web API with .NET 8, and here we implement .NET Core EF migration automatically. We don't need to create and don't need to write any command actually to migrate and update the database. So once your application will run, your API will run automatically. Whatever the changes automatically will be migrate. So how we can do that, I'll show you. So see, there actually I create a web application here, all the endpoint like get and pull and all everything, and here once I run application first time, now see, if you see there's a migration over here, actually table has been created, as well as actually they have to create a snapshot, and also they create if any changes, so they will update your migration table, updation also will be happen, right? So see, these are all that things. So I'll show you. See, also see a migration table, if it is newly first time, so migration table will be create, or any changes, so they also will be updated, right? So let's show you how, and also I'll show you the database. Like see, this is the database, and here if I execute over here, so it is one migration has been done. Now what I will do, simply I will just stop my application, and let me change one column. For example, let me add one more column over here, string, and just make it like for example url, image url, right? So once I add, I don't need to do any migration. If just I run my application, automatically will migrate and update our db. So that I will implement in this session. So let me show you. So now it's running, right? It's running, and also I'll show you in here. They will create a new updated migration in the table as well. I'll show you in the database. For example, let me execute this table again. So see, this is another execution has been done, and I'll show you on the table as well. Let me refresh. So that newly column has been updated as well. So go to the table columns. If you see the columns, now see, this image url has been added newly, right? So without any migration command, it will automatically will be migrate, right? So let's get start implementation. So before implementation, I'm especially recommend, if you first time visit my channel, so go to my channel. So this is my channel, .NET Real World Example, and here you can get many stuff before proceeding this one. So you can check out other stuff as well, like deployment series and clean architecture, and many things over there. So I'll show you from the scratch. So what I need to do, simply I'll just create a new application, .NET Core Web API application, create a new project, and choose template ASP.NET Core Web API using over here, for example, migration automatic. Next, choose whatever we have default. So once your application has been created, now let me run and see what is the default template, and make sure it's working fine. So now see, it's app simply as a weathercast, and if you try to execute, so you will get that result. So don't worry about that, we'll remove this one, and also we'll create our endpoint. And so first of all, what I need to do, I just have to create uh, data uh, db context folder, right? So first let me create a new folder, let me call it to data, and here let me add a db context. So what will be the db context? db context name would be a block db context, right? So let me create that db context. So this db context has been created. Now some actually NuGet package is required once you using a db context, right? So that EFCore packages is required. So let me add some packages. These are normal things, basic things which I already covered in many video sessions, but yeah, I'll show you from scratch so that you don't miss that. So let me add EFCore migrations. So Let me add entity framework first. So this is one of the package which we required, entity framework core. Let me add whatever your framework. So based on this, you can just add it. Done. Once it's done, go back to your here, and here you can just add inherit actually that db context. So let me add that db context. Once you db context add, it will bring back your entity framework core. And after that, what I need to do, simply I need to create a constructor, and inside this constructor I have to add the db context options, right? So that whatever configuration I have to pass, they can pass it to over here. So let me add db context option, add here our db context, and pass it, create a variables, and just call it to base and pass to our options. So like that, actually this is a simple configuration. And after that, actually I have to create one entity. So let me create a one entity as well. So for that, actually I have to create one more folder, for example entity, and let me create a one entity, call it to blog. And in this blog, what I need to do, I will add few property over there. For example, this id, name, description, and author, right? This is a default property. And once it's done, go back to your db context class, and you have to set that db set, right? So let me add the db set over here. Simply public db set your entity, and just store as a variables, and that's it. Get and set. So this is db context object has been created, right? This class is done created, and based on this, actually it will create our entities and all in our db. So once it's done, what I need to do, simply I have to configure something in our program.cs file, right? So go to that program.cs file. Here I have to add that db context class over here, so that while running, actually we can add our configuration. Based on the configuration, they can generate our things, right? So what I need to do, simply I have to add over here builder dot services dot add SQL server, right? So that SQL server, actually we have to get from that another package, right? So let me add that at SQL server, because as of now I am using the SQL server. So that's why we have to use that SQL server. But yeah, this is a provider, so whatever you want, so you can use it other one also. So let me add SQL server package again. Go to the NuGet package. Here let me select that SQL server, entity framework SQL server, choose this guy, installed. So whatever dependency we required, we will add on that time. We will not add on the first time, so that it's confusing, right? So that which one required where, so you have to know that. So like that, suppose this one. So what I need to do, simply, so you have to use one extension method like add SQL server. So let me add that, remove that, add SQL server, this guy. And here you have to pass your db context name. So what is my db context name? My db context name is blog db context, which we just created, right? So let me add this guy, and here you can just pass your connection string. So how we can get that connection string? It's very easy. Where SQL connection string, and then you can get from this builder have this options dot get configuration, and then here get connection string, and pass it to your connection string name. So what would be my connection string name? It could be SQL blog db, right? Whatever name you want, you can just add it. As of now, we don't have this connection string, so let me add first, so that you can know, right? We are have to add. So go to your solution. You have to go to the app.setting, and actually here you can add which, based on that environment you can add it. But yeah, as of now, I'll just using this one. So this is a default one, and here just add this connection string. Here you can just pass that name, and you can just add your uh, SQL DB connections, right? So as of now, I have my DB connections over here. I'll just add it over that, like for example this, and you can also add as per your DB connection. So it is simply I just using our DB connection, data source, catalog, and whatever other things, trusted connection and all. And let me change my database name. For example, this is my database name. So here what I will do, EF core auto migration DB, right? So that we can make sure whatever DB name. Once is done, go back to your program.cs file. This is done, and then pass it to simply your connection string over there, right? And once is done, then what you need to do, simply close that, right? So this is done. Now once is done, what I need to do next, simply I can use this DB context in our services, right? So let me create a one service first. Let me create a one more service over here, services folder, services, and here inside that service I'll need to create another one service which actually consume the DB context, and we can operation based on this, like insert, update, delete and all. So what I will do, I will just create a log service, right? And here I have to just create, here we have to make it actually interface. So public is not a class, is should be an interface. So let me create first the interface. I have to create, few method over here, like for example get all, get by id, create a sync, update and delete all, right? So that's all. And then what I need to do, I have to implement that all, that concrete class, right? So go to again service folder, let me create that implementation over here, and create a one concrete class, block service, add, just inherit that, and simply implementation, right? So let me implement. So these are the default implementation, don't worry about that, we'll implement. So first I need to do, simply create a constructor of that block service, and here what I need to, I have to inject that our db context class, right? So what is my db context class? It is a block db context, right? And bring that namespace is inside that data, and add that below db context, create a private fields and assign to in this constructor. Once it's done, now we are able to use that, right? So first we'll implement get all method, remove that, and simply we can implement using the db context. So what I need to do, simply I can just call the db context object dot blocks and to list async, and it is async await, I just put it await. So we have to decorate with the async method. So that is done, and now it's complaining something, this does not exist block db context, right? So I think some name mismatch over here. So yeah, that is the name. And also it is required, actually I'm using to list async, so we have to bring back the namespace. So this is that namespace, right? So bring back that, and this is done, right? Similar way I have to implement for that get by id. So go back to that get by id implementation. It is again very simple. I'm not going to details actually, which we covered already many of that our series, so you can go back. So as of now, simply, right, I'll just show you step by step, but I'm not going to details. So now see again, just change the name over there, and this is also done. Now moving further for that create one, now implement of the create also. Let me create this. This is very pretty much similar implementation. Also make it that async, and change it to our, that name to here, our db context name, and this we are trying to add, we have that add method, so we have to add and then pass it to that here, and also make it a save changes and return back to this. And one more things, yeah, for delete one, let me just make it delete implementation. Also it is a very much clean implementation, right? For example, we have to just get logs. First we have to compare, right, it is exist or not. If it is exist, then what I'm trying to do, simply I'm trying to remove and then save changes and return back to that. And one last thing is pending for update one, so let me quickly implement that update one also. It is also similar to delete. First we have to check like that one context, like subdb is the data blog is available or not, and make it to async. And once I've done, so see, it is just comparing, it is exist. If it is exist, then whatever data, just assign and just finally save change and return back to id. That's it, right? So it's done for the implementation. So all the method has been done for create a service, and now this service we can consume in our API, right? So let me create a controller. Let me remove that default one over here, and also remove that weather forecast, that one. So that also done. Let me create a new controller so that you can aware how we can use that this service, and go to API, use that empty controller, and choose is there, and just create a block controller. So now your block controller is ready. Now we are ready to use. So you create a constructor of that block controller and inject your service. So what is my service? My service name is block service, right? And create a constructor, create a variable, assign inside this constructor, and now we have to, our block service is ready to use. So once you inject your service, what I need to do, I have to create some endpoint, right? So get, on, post, put, delete, all the endpoints. So first of all, let me create a get endpoint. So it is very much similar, I already have covered many videos for that. So this is a one endpoint, get all, and call our injected services and return back to over here. Similar, I have to call that, I have to create another one, that is get by id, right? This is also same. And then post, also we are passing the data of that method, like block entity. Based on this, we have to create and return back to over here. And similar, to create another method, endpoint, that is update. Similar, like id of that block id, and update data entity, and pass it that service, and they will update it and return back to no content. And the one last one is pending, that is a delete. So also we will create a delete endpoint. This is also very much similar to that, like passing the id based on the calling the service, and it should be delete, right? So once it's done, now our endpoint is done, right? So yeah, once it's done, now what I need to do next, I have to call, actually we have to just first we have to just build that, so that we can make sure, yeah, it is working fine. So now see, we'll succeed over here. So in this case, what I need to do, I have to create one extension method. So where actually we can make whatever our, while running our application, that if it is db is not exist, so that should be first created, right? So that initial data we have to create. So what I can do for that, simply I can just create a one extension method over here, call it that extension, right? And in this extension, I'll create a one method name is, I'll just create a first of class, a static class, so that that can be called my startup file, right? So add that one and make it that static, right? And here what I can do, I have to simply call a method, make a method over here, and extension of that I host one, right? and then I just create a method, and inside that what I need to do, I just first of all I just create a scope over here. So how we can do that is simple, host.service.create a scope. Call this method using block, and after that we have to find that service provider. Okay, so yeah, this is the way actually inside this scope we can call the service provider, and we can get iService provider, and in using that iService provider I can get our services, whatever service I want. So yeah, this services dot get required our db context, so I am storing that db context object using that get required service. I can get that service over here, and then finally I will use one method over here. Like in this service we have a database, and that ensure that created. So see, that ensure that created actually once you running your application, so whatever initial level data, right, so that will call, and that db will be create and it will push, right. So this is fine for initial level, but what's happen if we are changing something, so that time this method will not work. So don't worry about that, it is not clear. I'll show you in a practical example, right. So now it is done, and what I need to do, I have to create uh, one more static class which will actually seed the data. So what is the seed the data? So let me show you for as a practical example. Let me create a one more class of a seed data class, right. So the class name would be our db initialize sys data, and here I'll again make it a static, right. Make this as a static, and I will just create a more method over here, which is actually extension of that db context, like that. So initial data, whatever our db context, we make a extension method. I'll call it that. Not extension method, yeah, but yeah, is a static class which will call in our extension method. And here, first of all, what I will check, if our db context table, like this block tables, have any data, right, so then simply return, don't need to do anything. Yeah, but if it is no data, then what I need to do, simply I have to create some no master data. For example, see, this is a block table data, for example data 1, data 2, and data 3, and those data we have to add, while initial creating your db. So that time we'll just add the data, and finally we'll save the changes our db, right. So like that. So this is a seed data, so that means like whatever master data, if you want to initial level load that data, so this kind of things you can just use it, right. Call this method in your extension method. After that, ensure that because db has been created, then we have to load some data. That's why I'll use over here initial data, and what we have to pass over here, we have to pass our db context object over here. So that is done, and now finally this extension method we have to call our startup file, so that once I run our application, so it should be called and it should be created, right. So where I have to call, I have to go to that program.cs file, and before run app dot call that create if exist, and just simply bring that namespace. It is a inside that extension method to bring that namespace, right. So now see, as of now, go to that database, refresh the data. We don't have as of now that database, right. So what would be the database will be created once I run, it should be create this one, right, EFCore db context. So as of now we don't have, right. So let me run. Now it's running perfectly, and if you check the console, so you will see now table has been created because it's initial level, and we he used that ensure data, right. So table has been created with those you know like name, description, and author, and also if you see, those are checking and also adding this data, right, which we have to seed data. So if you go to here and then refresh the database, now see this one has been created. If you expand the table, now see only just table has been created, there is a no migration table has been created, right. That means it just ensure the data and just create it, right. There's a no migration happening. But yeah, if you check this table columns, and let me execute that, select star from tables, right? So there is a three whatever sheet data they apply, right? Those are data over there. So now I'll show you the problem. What is the problem? Now let me stop that, right? And go to your blog tables, blog entity, right? And if you adding over here, that's also fine, but yeah, you can just create new table as well. But yeah, I'll show you over here. For example, let me add one more column. For example, string and image URI, right? And then save. And once I run again, let me run again. So it is running, perfectly is running. And if you go to that again console over here, right? So this time again just checking everything, ensure the data, but see there is a no adding new column and all those are things is not happening, because just make sure that database is exist or not, that he's checking that ensure data method, right? So that's why it's a problem. So how we can solve that no problem, like if I want to migration db migration automatically without fire that command. So that's why come in the picture that automatically migration. So how we can fix that? Remove that, right? And once I remove, why I'm remove, I'll tell you. So once I remove, first I need to do, I just add a one package. So go to the NuGet package and look for that EFCore migration package over here. That will help to actually automatic migration. Install that, apply. Once it's done, go back to, let me save everything and go back to your extension method. And here we have to call one method, one class actually is provide that this guy automatic migration, EF core migration. And here there's a version, like we have a execute without async and async method, both we have, right? So I can use without one, right, as of now, but yeah, I'll show you both one. We can use, just pass it to our db context. So once it's done, right, and let me run, I'll show you there's a one more issue which we have to fix. So once you run, now see they asking, like they dependent actually, let me zoom in for you this, they asking this package, right? So entity framework code design also dependent on that package. So what you need to do, just stop everything, right, and uh, go back to your NuGet package one more time. And here just look for that design package, right, and just install this one. So once it's done, now go back to your extension method here and save it, save properly. Now let me run. Now it's running. And if you go to console, now see all the table has been created, whatever things and whatever necessary things they just updated, right? Go to the db, just refreshed our db. So once you update, now see this is done, this is created. And if you go to the tables, now see those are things has been created. And then we go and check that migration table, select star from table. Now here the migration has been created, right? Now why I have changed, last time I removed, I'll tell you. Now what I will do, I will show you the from the scratch. That's why I removed that time. And let me add that table, that column again. For example, string and image URL, right? And just save it and just stop that application. Once you stop the application and run, now this time if there is a difference is, so what we'll do, they will add new column as well. and and also they will migrate, will update as well. Now see, now it this time should be two migration. Now see two migration happening, right? And also if I just refresh the table, for example, select star from this, right, and let me execute. Now see, image URL column also will be there, right? So now we don't need to do forcefully execute and all, right? And also if you want to check over here everything is working fine or not, now see it is something missing, right? Okay, there is a service actually injected that is missing, so let me quickly add that service, which is I missed that. So go to that program.cs file here, that one more service we have to add it, we have to actually resolve the dependency. So builder dot services dot add scoped and pass it your iBlog service and their implementation, right? So this is their implementation. Once it's done, now let me run and see, this time I'm running. If there is no changes, so nothing will happen, so that also they will take in care. That also I want to show you. Now it's running, correct? And once I execute, this guy should be return the result, right? So see, these are the result. And also if I want to add something, I can add something. Let me execute simply, right? See, this is happening, edit. And also let me execute one more time. Now see, newly data added. If I want to delete, now I want to delete some data, for example delete the data, try to delete a fourth one, or just first one I want to delete. Execute delete first one, second one, right? So two delete, right? Two block has been deleted. Execute. Now see, two data only there. And if you go to the database, now two data is there, right? With this image and all, right? There also that data is there. And now what I can show you, what I will show you, if you execute, see, if you n number time you running your application, nothing will happen till there is a no changes, right? So that is a, flexibility actually gives this guy, what is that guy, yeah, this guy, migration latest tool. So this is the one way. Actually there is a more things, actually one more things available inside these tools or this method, right? That I'll show you. That is called something, let me comment this guy. And there is a migration all happen, right? So see, once I uncomment these things, see, same method over there, right? Execution method. But one more thing, actually this method, see this overload method over there, right? So one more overload method. So here db migration option over there, and you can just pass based on this. Actually there is a configuration, right? So if you see, there is a multiple things, like if you want to automatically migration enable, so you can add it that. If you want to reset data schema, so what is that reset schema? If you set a reset schema, so always once you running, always will be created, right? So that is a not a good way, because if one first time it will create it, second time only just updated should be updated, updated data should be updated, not whole things will be recreated. So that actually we have to avoid it. So these are option, but yeah, if we require, so we can use it. So like that actually you can use that. And this is the one way. Then another way, actually this is directly we can use that class and we can use that execute method, right? But there is another way we can use that. There is a extension method also they will provide. So how we can use that extension method? Use that no, db context dot, the name is that migration. See, this is the migration. And they also has the two version over there, like one is that asynchronous way and without asynchronous way. So this also you can use that. Let me save it and let me stop that and run one more time, so that I'll show you there is a no data loss as well. So see, it is running. And let me execute that method. Now see, it is only two data, right? There is a no data loss. And also if you compare, there should not be any migration happening, right? And also the data will be there. And if I add or if I change something, so let me add quickly the last modification. For example, let me add one more class or one more entity. For example, here create a one more entity quickly. For example, demo, right? Demo add, and here simply I just add a property over there, name and ID, and this you have to just set in your db set, add your db set inside that db context. Here simply create a db set and pass it your entity, make it name is suppose demos, save it, stop and run, and let's see, it should be added new entity as well as in our db without uh, forcefully telling that okay, this is a new entity edit, right? Now see, let me check, it is working fine as expected, right? These are all. And if you go to here, go to the migration, now see, this is third migration happening. And as well as if you see, let me refresh the db, you will see that newly table also over there. Now see, demo table is there. If you see the columns, you will get that columns as well. So let me quickly show you over here from demos. Now see, demo table also there. There is a node data as of now, but yeah, is there. So like that, actually, you can do automatic migration with this simple step. I show you from the scratch because that is important, right? So that's why I'll show you. But yeah, you can just use this guy for your application. I'll just add, okay, let me add that GitHub, this repository, so that as a reference you can use it. So make it public and make this is a web API for migration automatically, right? Create a push. So this is that repository name, you can use it in my GitHub channel. So that's all for this session, and thank you, have a nice day, and don't forget to like, subscribe and share.